himself, Donald Trump. That's right, we're going to get started right in the nation's capital, okay? Where the commander-in-chief himself is not a fan of the NFL Commanders, evidently, at least the name for the Washington's football team. President Donald Trump is threatening to hold up a new stadium deal for the Commanders if the team does not go back to its old name, the Redskins, which is considered offensive to Native Americans. Trump also said Sunday that he wants Cleveland's baseball team to go back to his former team, the Indians. All right. The Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians have had their current names since 2022, and both have stated that they have no plans to change them back. Trump obviously took to Truth Social on Sunday with this quote: "The Washington whatevers should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There is a big clamoring for this. Likewise, the Cleveland Indians, one of the 6 original baseball teams with a storied past. Our great Indian people in massive numbers want this to happen. Their heritage and prestige is systematically being taken away from them. Times are different now than they were 3 or 4 years
What is this?
ago. We are a country of passion and common sense. Owners, get it done." 3 exclamation points.
That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. Really, this is one hell of an. It's actually a good tactic because I feel like a lot of motherfuckers are gonna
Late in
fight.
the day, the president followed up about the stadium deal. Quote, "My statement on the Washington Redskins has totally blown up, but only in a very positive way. I may put a restriction on them if they don't change the name back to the original Washington Redskins and get rid of the ridiculous moniker Washington Commanders. I won't make a deal for them to build a stadium in Washington. The team would be much more valuable, and the deal would be more exciting for everyone. Indians are being treated very unfairly. Make Indians great again."
Is he talking about the indigenous? What the fuck is he talking about? Like, what does Trump talk about anymore? Does he even know why they changed the name in the first place? Like, I don't even think he mentioned it. The Redskins, the name isn't offensive, is considered a slur in the indigenous community. That's what it was deemed when they advocated for it to change. That's also put into the fact that the Redskins initially was it the Boston, before they came to DC, they were Boston somebody. I forget the name of the team. Then they came down to DC, was called the Washington Redskins. Their owner was a devout racist. The Washington Redskins was the very last NFL football team that to allow black people to play. And I forget his fucking name. We can look into it someone look into it in a second. But like, he was like the very last team in the NFL to allow black people to play on their team. So by all means, if we want to change the name that a racist gave our football team, I say go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the epitome of bull and the epitome of pettiness. Now, I'm not one that sits here, although I can be critical of the president. We all know how I feel about the Democratic Party and how they lost the election. They blew the election and they tried to pull the country to the extreme left. And as a result, they've ravaged our nation, for crying out loud. Okay, we know how critical I can be about the Democratic Party. That ain't the focus of today's diatribe that I'm about to go in on. You've got a situation with Donald Trump. You don't have anything better to do? Of course you do. This is an evasive tactic. That's why I call BS on it, because it's an evasive tactic. Tariff wars, how's that working out? Yes, we've got pledges. We've got trillions of dollars in pledges from businesses and manufacturing throughout the United States of America. When's that going to come to fruition? We've got a border issue. No doubt he closed the border. Make no mistake about it. Immigration has improved in this country, whether we like it or not. But how he's going about it, how he's been going about it, particularly throughout the streets of America and especially in Los Angeles, you got folks being pulled over, law-abiding citizens, maybe not American citizens. They're here as migrants. They're here illegally, fine. Breaking no laws, working, paying taxes, but somehow, some way, I thought the criminal elements were going to be focused on. I thought we were going to get the criminals out of this country, not just go and have folks scared to show up to work, for crying out loud, who have disobeyed no laws. How about that? So we can sit there and we can have visions from 2 vantage points. Nevertheless, that's not as clean cut as everybody tries to make it out to be. There's a war between Russia and Ukraine that you promised to absolve from day one. That hasn't happened. There's the Israeli-Hamas conflict, where destruction is taking place in Gaza, where it's been reduced to rubble, where women and children are homeless, where we see and hear about children starving for bread. And all we hear from you is, hey, Israel, we need to stop this. Let's have a ceasefire. But that still is not completely resolved. There's a whole bunch of issues that are going on in the United States of America. There's those Epstein files that even the MAGA right has turned against Trump on, at least to some degree, not just MAGA right followers, podcasters, but also representatives on Capitol Hill who want the list to be released. With folks saying, hey, just show the list. Just show us who's on the list. You got people like me taking heat because I don't give a damn about the Epstein list, only because I'm thinking about politicians lying all the damn time. I'm thinking it was a campaign ploy, even though that's not something that Trump campaigned on. The MAGA right certainly did.
I think Trump did campaign on releasing the Epstein files. Didn't he have an interview on that? Hold on. Let's take a journey. Here we go. So it was. I swear he made like it was an interview recently. I saw one that's recently. Yeah, Epstein interview. That? Damn, I won't be able to find it. Was it a short?
If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these.
Yeah.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah,
Would you declassify JFK files?
yeah.
Would
I
you,
did. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff
Yeah.
with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
Yeah, so he does. Yeah, he did run on releasing the Epstein files. I know I wasn't crazy. I know everybody else wasn't crazy. I'm not the crazy one. You're the crazy one. Yeah, I'm definitely not the crazy one. I figured it was that. I gotta go.
And so you got folks from the deep state, as they say, that may have been a part of the Epstein files, and people may want to know who was that. Who was that was engaging in sex trafficking and other salacious and incendiary behavior with underage girls? And suddenly that list has not been revealed, contrary to what Pam Bondi told us, contrary to what Kash Patel told us, contrary to what Dan Bongino swore to us. So we got all of this going on. And you bring up the Redskins and their name from years ago? And the Commanders of the National Football League? Really? That's where we're going? Now, for those of you that don't understand the particulars about what's going on, I'm here to break it down for you because it's important that I point this out to you to make sure I get this out of the way, okay? Because it's important that you know this. The stadium, where RFK Stadium, where the Redskins used to play, when they were the Redskins, there's a new stadium that Josh Harris, the owner of the Washington Commanders, who with his group purchased the Washington Commanders for over $6.5 billion less than 2 years ago. This man is looking to build a new stadium project on an old RFK site. The projected cost of it is expected to be valued at about $3.7 to $4 billion. $2.5 to $2.7 billion is what Josh Harris has pledged to spend himself. So after spending $6.5 billion to buy the franchise, he's willing to spend an additional $2.5 to $2.7 billion on a new stadium. They're looking for an additional $1 billion plus from the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. And these are where the problems lie. Because Trump's position is that, well, RFK Stadium, or the old RFK Stadium site, is federal land, federal property. What he's ignoring is that 15 days before he returned to office, former President Joe Biden signed legislation on his desk that enabled it to be transferred to a 99-year lease to the District of Columbia, which means that even though it's still federal property, the dominion belongs to the District of Columbia for the next 99 years. That's not stopping Trump, however, from bloviating and talking about what he's going to do. What is this about, ladies and gentlemen? This is about him appealing to his base. This is about him once again giving the impression that promises made, promises kept is something he stands on. That's what he's doing. But the real stuff that needs to be done, the real stuff that he needs to be doing, the real stuff that he actually has the power to have profound influence over, we ain't hearing enough about that. There's been critics all over the place about the big, beautiful bill. There's been critics all over the place about how he has gone about enforcing new immigration laws. There's been critics all over the place about the inordinate amount of executive orders he's handed down, with lawsuits all over the place, involving the federal courts, the local courts, ultimately to the Supreme Court. You got to wonder how long stuff is going to stay in place and what have you. And to debunk all of that, to veer our attention away from all of that, to get us focused on something else, this man has brought up the Washington Commanders. Really? Seriously? And you got people out here falling for the okie doke. I want to read some of the numbers here because, again, Washington, D.C. City Council, they have not refused Mayor Muriel Bowser's stadium funding request because she's requesting $1 billion, but it did pause formal approval, insisting on more scrutiny and legal clarity. While money is budgeted, the definitive go-ahead vote is still pending. The council did set aside about $1 billion in the 2026 budget for infrastructure costs related to the stadium development at RFK, but crucially did not formally authorize the funding terms tied to the stadium deal itself. Council leadership indicated that while they support financing infrastructure, they need to finalize a separate bill to make the stadium terms binding. The vote has been delayed, likely pushing the decision to the fall, okay? But there's more about this. Remember, RFK Stadium, 180-acre campus. Even though it remains federally owned, control shifted to that 99-year lease to the District of Columbia in January 2025. That means the city, through Events DC, by the way, will own and manage the property long-term while the federal government retains formal title. Joe Biden signed a land bill in a bill back on January 6, 2025, okay? By which time the Washington Commanders under Harris are set to become the operators of the new stadium, but they won't own the land itself. Those are the facts, okay? Let me give you some other facts, because all of this is relevant. This is why Trump gets to bloviate, but this is why it gets interesting, because even though he's just bloviating and he doesn't necessarily have the power to dictate anything, what he can do is use his prowess, use his cachet, use his popularity, at least in the eyes of some people, to point some things out. Remember, since Trump got into office, nearly 3,000 federal employees have been let go. Did y'all remember that? 58,500 confirmed job cuts, 76,000 buyouts, 149 planned reductions as of June 3rd, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, Washington, D.C. is dominated by one industry: politics. It's a solo industry town. If you've got people losing their jobs, and I'm not saying all the jobs, the federal jobs, came from Washington, D.C. Of course, not all 300,000, but a lot of them came from D.C. Here's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to patronize products? Who's going to patronize restaurants, stores and shops, venues, et cetera, et cetera? Who's going to do that? The city council is basically saying, how the hell can we justify coming up with $1 billion for a new stadium when all of these people have been laid off by the federal government or let go by the federal government? And by the way, just as an aside, I want to point out, I don't think Josh Harris did the right thing by responding publicly and talking about how the name would never be changed. Because you know Trump, all he's going to do is double down. My question to the president is why? Why are these frivolous issues so important to you?
I don't think they want the name change anyways. There might be people in DC or fans that I still see the old paraphernalia, the old Redskin paraphernalia and stuff like that, but I don't see a lot of people actually giving a fuck about the name, about the Redskin name. As a matter of fact, I mean, as a fan myself, I prefer the Commanders. I mean, we weren't winning shit as the Redskins. So, I mean, like, we just got out the NFC Championship game last year. We were the Commanders. we're probably going to be more successful moving forward instead of backwards. I don't want that.
We were born at night, not last night. This is BS. And once again, it's a combination of two things. Him being petty and showing his prowess, him being evasive, I would say, to keep us steered away from the real issues, and also to get into a public battle with the NFL. Because obviously that draws attention. Last point, because I got to get to Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo, who's now going to be on the show again. I got to get to him. I want to state this point because I think this is very, very important. To show y'all how senseless all of this is. It's much ado about nothing. It's something that Trump is making into something because evidently he doesn't want our attention on the real issues. Because there's a lot of projections, a lot of speculations, a lot of promises, but things that are finite in writing as a matter of law and what have you, even though the big, beautiful bill is something they're going to stand on because it preserves the 2017 tax cuts, let's be very, very clear. There's a lot that people have a problem with as it pertains to the big, beautiful deal. Republicans as well as members of MAGA. Of course, the Democrats as well. But as it pertains to football, did y'all know that last season, the Washington Commanders were helped immensely with the arrival of Jaden Daniels and the team's performance en route to a 12-5 season and a trip to the NFC title game, their first one since 1991? Did you know that last season the Commanders nearly surpassed the entire 2023 merchandise revenue by November thanks to Jaden Daniels' breakout season? Did you know that from the start of the 2024 NFL season through January, Jaden Daniels had the #1 selling jersey in all of sports, according to Fanatics?
I'll tell you who didn't know. Donald Trump.
Did you know that sparked by Daniels, sales for Commanders merchandise skyrocketed 463% from 2023 to 2024 and increased 4,129% once Washington made the playoffs? What's the lesson in all of this, ladies and gentlemen? Star power. Nobody's thinking about the name. They don't have a problem with the Redskins being gone. They don't care that it's the Washington Commanders. They care that Jaden Daniels is their quarterback. Instead of guys like Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke, who were quarterbacking the Commanders the first 2 years since the name changed. That's why the popularity paled in comparison to when Jaden Daniels arrived, because Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke were not Jaden Daniels. Star power is what sells. And because they got Jaden Daniels, and because they were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl berth, they mattered. Nobody's making noise about the Commanders being the Commanders other than the president, who made this into a separate issue because he sees an opportunity to capitalize it off of it with his base. Period. Don't fall for the okie doke. We got better things to do with our time. We got better things to do with our time. And damn it, Mr. President, so should you. This is ridiculous. The Native American community, many American Native Americans out there are clamoring for a return to the Redskins. In what world? Where the hell is your evidence about that? I mean, please.
That's another thing. Let's go on the journey again because, like, once again, I mentioned this earlier. The name Redskins was removed for a reason. This is the term Redskin is a slur. I don't give a shit when anybody says, right? The term Redskin is a slur, and there were people who wanted to remove that. The indigenous community wanted to remove that. Again, the validity I give to this is that the validity that I can give to this is because
that this city has ever seen.
As I found this video.
Appeal Board, which is a component of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, to cancel.
The Boston Braves became known as the now as Jesse Witt.
So, like I said, I think it was George Preston Marshall was the original owner of the Washington, then called Washington Redskins. He's a denounced racist. He was a fucking racist. Tooth and nail. The Washington Redskins, fact check me, I think I'm right though, was the last team in the NFL to allow black people to play on their squad. And that was against the wishes of the owner, was it Marshall, at the time, the racist. I believe he was pressured into doing so. So the Redskin being a slur when the owner is George Preston Marshall, it adds up. So this is just a video I found about the Redskin name being an actual slur.
He's a partner at Drinker Biddle who represents a group of Native Americans in a federal action requesting that the National Football League's Washington, D.C. team loses trademark protection for the term Redskins. Welcome, Jesse. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Spencer.
So, Jesse, in 1933, the Boston Braves became known as the Redskins before moving to Washington, and now your clients are demanding that the team stop using the term, the trademark, and mascot. Why?
We have petitioned the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board, which is a component of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, to cancel the registrations of the trademarks of the team. If we were to win, they could still use the team name, but the trademarks would no longer be registered trademarks. They'd be unregistered trademarks. The statute, the trademark law, the United States trademark law, which is called the Lanham Act, says that trademarks which contain matter that may disparage persons are not subject to registration. And if anyone is aggrieved by registration, they can petition this Trademark Trial and Appeal Board to cancel the registration. So our clients have essentially gone to the trademark office and pointed out that the agency made a mistake back in the 70s and early 90s when it registered the certain trademarks of the Washington NFL team.
And so it's because they find that the term itself is offensive or they think it's disparaging. Is that right?
The legal test is whether it may disparage persons, and yes, the term Redskin is an ethnic slur.
Many of the fans and the team's owner, Dan Snyder, argue that there's so much tradition in the name that has been used for more than 80 years. So are you saying that the tradition here doesn't matter, that it shouldn't matter?
The team name has been in use for about 80 years, but I don't think that if that makes it a tradition, that doesn't mean it should remain. Not all traditions are good traditions. We've had traditions in this country of racial discrimination and segregation, and fortunately we've gotten beyond those. I think it's also important to understand very clearly where this so-called tradition came from. The team was originally the Boston Braves, and a year later, its owner, George Preston Marshall, changed the name to Boston Redskins, and then a year after that, moved the team to Washington, D.C., where it has been the Washington Redskins. George Preston Marshall is one of Washington, D.C.'s most notorious racists. The team was the very last team to allow African Americans to play on the team. He opposed it, he fought it, he vigorously opposed having the team be anything other than pure white. It was only because in 1963 that the Department of Interior said to the team that if they wished to continue playing on federal land, which was then DC Stadium, now RFK Stadium, if they wanted to continue their lease at that stadium, they needed to integrate the team. It was very much over George Preston Marshall's ardent objections that African Americans were included on the team. When Marshall died in the late 1960s, he left a lot of money to charity to be used for underprivileged children who were white and only white. So this tradition comes to us from one of the most notorious racists that this city has ever seen. I don't consider that source of tradition to be anything that we should be honoring, respecting, or paying the slightest bit of attention to today.
And so, Jesse, according
W, and that's basically, yeah, exactly. Go ahead back, and like I said, nobody wants this fucking name. Nobody gives a shit about the Redskin name. We are perfectly fine here in DC, in the DMV with the Commanders. I don't see a reason to go backwards. I don't see a reason to look back. I gotta find a shorter way to do this. There's gotta be a shorter way to go right back to where I was. Oh,
I got Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion to get into.
Stupid
the
ass.
CEO who got busted with his HR person. All right, the married CEO. I got that to get into. And I've got some incredibly sad news to touch on involving Malcolm Jamal Warner. Theo from The Cosby Show. All of that.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Theo. Rest in peace, Malcolm.
Saying he sabotaged Keith Wright's run to be the first black speaker. He has a history when it comes down to black elected officials. I chose my terms very clear.
Okay.
I did not call him a racist. I said he has a problem against black men. Now you could have a problem against black men without being a racist.
That was the incumbent mayor of New York City, the one only Eric Adams, that was on the show last week, and it is now my pleasure to have on the show today for the second time the former 3-term governor for the state of New York, who is now running against Adam as an independent for the mayor's seat in New York City. The one and only Andrew Cuomo is back on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Good afternoon, sir. How are you? How's everything?
How are you, Stephen A. Smith? I'm doing very well, thank you.
It's good to see you. You heard what the incumbent mayor of New York just had to say about you. He said a lot more, but it was along those lines. Your response to what he has to say about you having an issue with black men who are in leadership positions.
Yeah, let me just say, Stephen A., desperate people say desperate things, right? Forget the implication. It's factually wrong, everything he said. Ambassador Carl McCall is one of the most respected black leaders in New York, former ambassador, former controller for the state of New York, really an extraordinary man. He actually called on me to enter into this contest and supports me. Governor David Paterson, yes, first black governor in New York State, he supports me. Charlie King, another person you mentioned, he supports me. So if somebody has...
I don't know, this just makes me uncomfortable. Just go out and get the black vote. Like, I don't really need you to run down a list of random black people that support you. I don't give a fuck about that. That's not to me personally, that's not a good look. Just go out and win the black vote.
If somebody has a problem with black leadership, black men, it's Eric Adams, because none of them support him. So, but look, desperate people say desperate things. Let me just leave it at that.
You know, one of the polls, I'm looking at one of the recent polls that came out. I think it was, I got a hold of it this morning and I was talking about, right now, you're leading him amongst black voters.
Yeah.
Tell us why you think that's the case. When we're talking about, because obviously a lot of black voters supported Eric Adams, and that's what got him into office to begin with as the mayor of New York City. That doesn't appear to be the case now. What edge would you surmise that you have over him, particularly with black voters?
Stephen A., I don't think people, I think people are better than we think. I don't think people are voting by gender identity, race, etc. I think they know a person and they support a person based on what they've done. I've worked with the black community. I was Housing and Urban Development Secretary under Bill Clinton. I was Attorney General. I was governor for 11 years. We know each other very well. It's a genuine, deep relationship forged over decades, frankly. And it's a beautiful thing, and I'm very proud of it. And so that's what it is. And yes, I'm doing better with the black community than Eric Adams. And that's why he's saying the crazy, nasty things that he's saying, right? But he's not going to change. He's not going to change their minds. They know what I've done. They know what I've performed. They know the difference I made in their lives. They know what I've done as governor for 11 years. So that's a very deep personal relationship.
So, Governor, listen, your popularity amongst African-American voters is undeniable. Eric Adams is challenging that. At this point in time, how concerned are you about him being that formidable challenger, particularly with you running as an independent instead of a Democrat?
Yeah, look, Eric Adams' problem is caused by a gentleman named Eric Adams. Back in April, he was basically unelectable. Why? Because of the condition of the city. New Yorkers didn't think he did a good job. He had a series of corruption cases all through his administration. And then he was charged with a crime. And then Donald Trump dropped the charges. But the president didn't just drop the charges, didn't pardon the charges. He dropped the charges conditioned on Adams cooperating with his administration. And that's when New Yorkers really felt betrayed. Because Adams made a deal to keep himself out of jail, but he became Trump's puppet in New York City. And that New Yorkers wouldn't tolerate. And that's why Adams couldn't run in the Democratic primary, because Democrats didn't want to have anything to do with him. And Democrats are still 70% of the vote in the general election. So he is not electable by the people of the city of New York. And if I were to disappear tomorrow, Stephen A., he would get crushed by the person on the Democratic line.
You don't think he'd have a chance against Mamdani?
No.
You don't think Eric Adams would? No, at all?
Nope. No,
Why?
because it doesn't even get to Mamdani. It's about...
I don't know. I guess coming from Andrew Cuomo is just weird. This guy has just is all over news. I could have sworn he was never going to show his face in politics again after being accused of harassing 13 women. But I don't know. It's fair. This is not a ploy for Eric Adams. Fuck that guy too. I'm just stating it was like he was just running down a list of bad things, and I was like, he's no angel.
Eric Adams, and they don't want to reelect Eric Adams. So it wouldn't even get to the merits of Mamdani, who is on the Democratic line, but is a socialist, okay? I'm on an independent line, but I'm a Democrat. So, the politics nowadays are topsy-turvy, and that's what we're seeing in this election. Mamdani is a socialist. And I don't believe when we get to a general election, New Yorkers are going to vote for a socialist who is anti-business, anti-capitalist, anti-police, fuels anti-Semitism. I don't believe New Yorkers vote for him. Now, it was between him and Adams, yes, because they're not going to vote for Adams. But I think if I get a chance to take Mamdani on one-on-one, I think I beat him.
I thought he did. Did he not already do that? And didn't he lose the primary?
I'm going to get to you and Mamdani in a couple of minutes, because that is just a fascinating scenario that I see unfolding personally. And I don't blame you one bit for staying in the race and running as an independent, because we know about 20% of the voters showed up for the primaries, and I get that part. So it's millions of votes out there that will take place during the general election. It doesn't during the primaries. I get that part. But back to Adams. I'm wondering, sir, because news, it circulated in the news that you called him, that you wanted to talk to him about potentially stepping aside and allowing you to run as the sole independent in this particular race. Could you elaborate on that? Was that indeed a call that took place? If so, what exactly is it that you said to Mayor Eric Adams at that time?
That never happened. What did happen is this. Governor David Paterson, former governor of New York, served before me, great Democrat, great governor. He put forth, he saw this collision course with Adams and myself, a multi-candidate race, helps Mamdani. So Governor Paterson's proposal was, we get to September, whoever is the stronger candidate goes forward. The other candidate defers to the stronger candidate who has a better shot against Mamdani. I accepted that proposal because I do believe the goal here is to beat Mamdani. I think New York...
Holy shit, they're treating this guy like he's Thanos. Wow, they hold a fucking meeting?
Doesn't want a socialist. I think the socialist policies he's putting forth would be very hurtful to New York City, so I accepted it. That's the only factual situation. And look, it's sort of an inarguable proposal, right?
Okay.
If you believe you're not the stronger candidate, then you're just a spoiler. And if you're just a spoiler, then it's about you and it's about your ego. But you're driving the car off the cliff.
We're talking to you, Jill Stein.
That's why, for me, I said it's a no-brainer. If I'm not the stronger candidate, I will defer. I have no problem with that.
Do you foresee a scenario in which you're perceived as the not stronger candidate by September from the independent side? Do you see that anything at all?
Nope. No. Look, why? Because I've been the stronger Democratic candidate all along before we get to the primary. People know me, Stephen A., good, bad, indifferent. 11 years as governor, 4 years as attorney general. I went through COVID with the people of New York, many people across the nation every day. They know me. And they're not going to change their opinion after 15 years of seeing me every day. They're not going to change their opinion in the next 4 months. So I know the support.
Bro,
that I have. I don't see that changing. I believe it is going to be a difficult race against Mamdani. He's on the Democratic line. 70% of the vote are Democrats. A lot of voters are knee-jerk. I go for the Democrat, right? A lot of the Democratic institutions, the unions, et cetera, they just knee-jerk go with the Democrat. So it's a tough race, but I don't believe that my situation changes between now and then. And every piece of information you have says that I am the strongest candidate to defeat Mamdani.
Why did you lose to Mamdani in the Democratic primaries?
I made mistakes in the campaign. I didn't focus enough on the under 30 vote. I didn't do enough on social media. And that under 30 vote, Stephen A., exploded in the primary. And in many ways, it's a microcosm of what's going on nationwide. You have an extreme right MAGA vote, and the reaction on the Democratic side has been an extreme left move on the Democratic side. I don't think either extreme is helpful or actually productive, but on the Democratic side, you have this extreme left socialist movement very attractive to the under 30 crowd, and he energized that. I wasn't speaking to it enough. They are anti-Israel for the most part. I am pro-Israel, and that was an aggravating factor. But that's where I lost the race. The under 30.
That's because a lot of people refuse to understand the actual sentiment of people. It's when you're saying anti-Israel, people immediately think anti-Semitic. When it's definitely I'm anti-Israel, basically anti-IDF, basically the government in Israel, not the people. Not the religion, not the whatever. It's just the government. It's the government that people are protesting. It's the government people don't like. I think people just can't get out of their feelings.
Voted in historic proportions. Voters who had never voted in a primary before showed up and voted at 3 times the rate of everyone else.
With that being said, Andrew Cuomo, I'm sitting back and I'm listening to you right now and I'm saying to myself, this is a 3-term governor. If it wasn't for the scandal that rocked your administration and led to you departing from office, you would have been a 4-term governor. You know this game. How is stuff like social media and younger voters, how did that escape you? How did that happen?
Well, yeah. First of all, Monday morning quarterbacking is easy, right? If I get to replay the game, the Pacers are going to beat Thunder, right? On Monday morning. The under 30 vote was really an historic explosion. And in retrospect, I didn't pay enough attention to it. Now, he is also 33 years old. He had a natural attraction with the younger generation. I get all of that. But it was, the vote was unprecedented. And it was 105 degrees, and a lot of my vote didn't come out because it was 105 degrees, but no excuses. I should have run a better campaign.
I listen to you right now, and I have to say this. If you don't mind, I want to play pundit right now and throw in my 2 cents. All right, I'm listening to you right now, particularly how sharp your tongue was about Eric Adams a few minutes ago, and I'm saying, where the hell was that Andrew Cuomo during the primaries? I mean, I thought that, sir, I got to confess, I thought you were being a little bit too nice. I mean, I'm looking at Mamdani and the way that he was coming at you during the campaign, particularly when y'all were on stage together during that last debate, and a lot of noise was made, with his sound bites about how he was coming at you, and I'm saying to myself, free buses and free child care and government-run groceries. I'm like, the ammunition is right there. Where the hell is the Andrew Cuomo that most New Yorkers have known and loved for years that would just eat that person alive in a moment like that? Where was that guy?
You have to rub it in, right? You have to rub it in. You don't think I go through this every night, Stephen A.
Right.
You don't think I go through this every night? And if I don't go through it, God forbid I miss a night, then I have to hear from my brother. Look, I made a mistake. I was way ahead in all the polls, and I was, let's say, playing it safe. And you're right. The great irony is, my whole reputation is I'm a New Yorker's New Yorker. I'm tough. I'm combative. I'm too aggressive. And that's who I am. I'm a fighter for New Yorkers, and I don't apologize for it. And in the campaign, ironically, I was not aggressive enough. There is no doubt about that.
You on this show first go round, and you sat down and gave me the honor and privilege of sitting down with you for nearly an hour. You articulated this about yourself. You can be stubborn, pig-headed. At times, in an effort to serve New Yorkers, you may have been a bit aggressive and ruffled feathers along the way, and that might have turned people off. How much did that factor in to, dare I say, the softer approach that you had towards going at Mamdani?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I was attuned to the criticism of being too combative, too aggressive. And I think I did tone it down pursuant to that criticism. And in retrospect, that was a mistake. Because, first of all, the people who I'm too aggressive towards were basically the inside politicians, right? He was too tough on the legislature, but not too tough on the people in New York. New York wants someone who's tough on their behalf, who fights and gets things done. Nobody got done what I got done as governor, right? Nobody built a new LaGuardia Airport, new Kosciuszko Bridge, new 2nd Avenue subway, passed groundbreaking laws. You don't get that done unless you push. That's the only way it happens. And that was my strength. But yes, did I, in the campaign, did I try to correct for that point? Yes. And it didn't work. So much for being nice, Stephen A. That's what I say.
But isn't it also possible, or at least from a perception standpoint, that because of the sexual harassment allegations that ultimately left you to depart from office, the nursing home situation during COVID, is it possible that the residue from that is what made you a bit passive towards Mamdani because you knew it was something that he and the other candidates were going to pounce on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I know what that is. The people in New York know what that is. I think it was your point. It was the criticism that you had of me. People say you're too tough, you're too combative, you're too aggressive. All right, so I'll show you a softer, more gentle side, and I won't be as aggressive. And I wasn't. And that didn't work. And I didn't challenge the obvious simplicity of his slogans. Those slick slogans that sound good, right? Everything free, free buses, free education, free food, everything's free. BS, everything's free. There's no free lunch. If it sounds too good to be true, it isn't. It
usually is.
Everybody gets it. And you're right, government, how do you help people with the cost of groceries? Government-run grocery stores. One in every county. New York City's going to run a grocery store in Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, etc. New York City can't fill a pothole. And now you're telling me New York City's going to run a grocery store? And that's the answer? The prices in that grocery store are going to be cheaper? Grocery stores have one of the thinnest margins. It's 1% to 3%. I mean, it was a fraud. It was just a fraud. Freeze the rent. So my rent is too high. Freeze the rent. How long can you freeze the rent? And what happens when the landlord says, well, I'm not going to fix the building? Or the landlord says, I can't pay my bills. I'm putting the building in foreclosure. It was all simple, slick slogans that could never happen. But left unchallenged, they sound good. I want free. I can have everything free. Yes, I'll vote for that, And this whole socialist school of everything free, make the millionaires pay, which, by the way, those numbers don't even add up, defund the police, dismantle the police, legalize prostitution. I mean, where are you living?
These program can help tenants freeze their rent at affordable rates, protecting them from future increases. This program includes exemptions for seniors, individuals with disabilities, allowing property tax abatement credits to cover the difference between actual rent and frozen rate. Yeah. Okay. I don't understand. I don't understand the issue with the rent freeze. I don't know. I got to see how
Living
Madani
that you
was
think those would be
actually
good
presented.
things. You have a terrible crime problem in New York.
Because I
Your
don't-
answer is
because
dismantle
because
the
of freeze the rent, it's actually would be a good thing for lower income.
police.
I'm starting to feel like
Send out social workers instead of police.
I'm starting to feel like listening to Andrew Cuomo so at this point to understand why he lost it under 30, because I feel like he's losing people who actually are working and he's losing the people who are low income, struggling, because it looks like every idea that Mandani is throwing around that could benefit nobody but or more so the families in low incomes, he's shitting on. You know, that's I guess if that's the approach that he's been doing, then I can understand how he lost the
Yeah, that's what I want. In the middle of the night, somebody's coming through the window. I dial 911. I want a social worker to knock on the door and say, let's sit down and talk about it. You know, but
I got it. I got it. So with that being said, do you believe, is it a situation where
That's also not what that's not what that means. Adding social workers to the police force isn't social workers responding to fucking a shootout. It's more so responding to domestic calls. That's about it. That framing is horrible.
you feel it's necessary in light of what happened in the Democratic primaries to get tough, to be as sharp as you are right now in going at them, their prognostications, what they're campaigning on? Or is it something that you want to do because you regret the fact that, you know what, you wasn't your full self, full throttle during the Democratic primaries?
no,
Is it a necessity or a desire?
no, it is a necessity because if this fellow wins, first he has no experience whatsoever in managing anything. He never had a real job. And now he's going to be mayor of New York running 300,000 people, right? No real life experience. He's an assemblyman. He passed 3 bills. Passing 3 bills means you barely showed up, right? If you only passed 3 bills. And this is a serious job. You know, there could be, God forbid, another 9/11. There could be a Hurricane Sandy, right? There could be a COVID. This is life and death. And
this right here, if somebody was to watch what this particular interview, you can see that he's just shitting on Mandani. And again, he's won the 30 and under vote. I don't believe this is a good approach to just shit on people because because they haven't worked a real job, so he doesn't believe in that he can do it. Come on, that's
with his
textbook.
policies, he's anti-business, anti-capitalist. How can you be anti-business in the city of New York? We're all about business. We are the business capital. We want businesses to come. We want businesses to grow. That's opportunity. That's jobs. So I think it would be devastating for New York City, and it would take a decade to recover. What lesson I did learn is I'm not going to listen to guys like you who say you're too tough, you're too combative. I am who I am. And
You can't say that. Don't put my name in there. I have no problem with you being rough and tough. That doesn't bother me. That's right up my alley. I wish you were. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. What about people like AOC, who's obviously a congressional figure, what have you? I mean, she's a congresswoman. She's in the nation's capital, out of New York, but she has endorsed him. What does that mean to you, if anything at all?
It means nothing. Look, you have this extreme left reaction to the extreme right. I get it. But the extreme left is not productive or realistic either. And what has happened to New York City is a combination of 2 things. These extreme left policies, defund the police, cut $1 billion from the police, anti-police officer, public safety suffers.
What does defund the police mean? Does he hear defund the police and he thinks abolish the police? I think every time I hear somebody like respond with that, I think they think when they hear defund the police, they're thinking of that they want to abolish the police. No, sir. It's more about reforming the police. It's about making sure that those funds that the police have are actually used. That would help, those funds would also go into investing into social workers to help lower the violent interactions with the Gen Pop.
And they're anti-business. I had worked for a year to get Amazon to have a proposal to come open a headquarters in New York. Would have generated 25,000 jobs. They killed the proposal because they're anti-corporation. These are destructive, knee-jerk policies that make no sense. And I believe New York is poised for greatness. I believe you can see New York City take off because you have a lot of urban areas that are struggling in this country, right? Post-COVID, with these leftist policies, plus an incompetent government. Look at LA, look at San Francisco, look at Chicago. New York, we could take off. We just have to clean up our own act. And I know how to do that, Stephen A. I did it on the state side, which frankly is more complicated than doing it on the city side. So I think this is all or nothing for New York City. We're either going to seize the moment, clean up our act, take off, or we're going to go backwards. And with this socialist theory, you're going to see businesses leave, you're going to see wealthy people leave, you're going to see a city that's more dangerous, and we can't take that at this time.
One of the things I wanted to make sure I brought up with you was that Forbes/Harris poll. I've been reading about that, and obviously that favors you. You're number 2 behind, obviously, Mamdani, and you're well ahead of Curtis Lewa, the Republican nominee, or the candidate rather, and of course, Mayor Eric Adams. Your thoughts about that and what that poll says about you and what level of confidence that instills in you?
Yeah, they all say the same thing, Stephen A. I think in the Harris X poll, I beat Mamdani one-on-one.
Yes.
In a multi-candidate, then it's Mamdani, me, the Republican, and then Eric Adams. So Mamdani is praying for a multi-candidate race. That's what he's praying for. If we have any intelligence at all, we'll put forth a stronger candidate, and the other candidate will defer. That is just basic intelligence and basic common sense. And it's sort of one of those propositions that really gets to the core. Is this about your ego, or is it about you actually wanting to stop Mamdani? Because if it's not about your ego, then you would get out of the way if you're not the stronger candidate. And if it is about your ego, you shouldn't be in this business in the first place. Because when it's about you, the people lose.
What about people who look at you, Governor?
Not see the president of the United States.
And you'll always be my governor. That's what I'm going to call you for the time being, at this particular moment in time. I got to ask you, when you look at the Democratic primaries and what happened, but the fact that you're running as an independent, and there's a lot of independent voters out there, there's a lot of Democrats who lean more towards the center than more towards the extreme left. Otherwise, you wouldn't be running as an independent. We get that. Some could say that's the state of affairs in the state of New York. So rather than run for the mayor's seat, do you find it possible that you could look back on this someday and, dare I say, may have regrets about the fact that you ran for mayor instead of running for the governor's seat again, since you won that race 3 times and was en route to winning a 4th time?
Yeah, I think, you're getting back to your question before, Stephen A., I don't really need any of this for me. I was a cabinet secretary under Clinton. I was HUD secretary, governor, AG. My name was mentioned for vice president when I was HUD secretary. I've been talked about as a presidential candidate. I can go home and feel quite satisfied with what I've done for public service and my accomplishments. I'm good. I'm good. I don't need it. I do believe New York City is at a critical point, and I believe New York City is at a tipping point. You can go one way or the other. And I believe in my heart of hearts that I can help because this is what I do. This is what I've done all my life. I've done one thing. I'm not a golfer. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a tennis player. I am a government professional, and I know how to make government work, whether it's federal, state, local. Call me in, coach, because this is what I do. The last 2 minutes of the game, that's my sweet spot. That's what I do. And I can be a help to New York City. That's all this is about.
Is that your way of saying if somehow, some way, unfortunately, you lose this race, whether it's to Eric Adams or it's straight up to Mamdani and Curtis Lewa, let me not forget his name, is that your way of saying that your political career will come to an end? You're good. You can move on if you don't win this mayor seat in New York City?
I can move on. There's no doubt about that. I feel very good about what I've done.
But will you?
Well, who knows what happens in the future, right? And first of all, I intend on winning this race, so I don't really get to question 2.
Last question. 2 parts. If Mamdani wins the election, what will be the state of New York? If Andrew Cuomo rises and he wins the election, what will be the state of New York compared to 2?
Let's assume Mamdani does a fraction of what he's talking about. You will see a tax shift. You'll see a fear among wealthy people that will increase the exodus of people leaving New York. We're now losing wealthy people from New York, okay? It is a steady stream of wealthy people leaving. Post-COVID, they're more mobile. We have high taxes. The city's dangerous. You'll see that increase. You'll see businesses say, I want to stay away from New York. Because he's a socialist. He's anti-capitalist. He says government should control production. I mean, that's what he says. You will see a Jewish community that is frightened because he fuels anti-Semitism repeatedly. And it's a central theme to his entire candidacy. You will see that. You will see a more dangerous New York because I get this theory of we don't need police. If everybody has education, everybody has a job, then nobody will commit a crime.
I would like for that to be challenged. Like I would like to see, because I can't find a video of Mamdani saying or advocating for violence amongst the Jewish community or being anti-Semitic. I think in today's society, if you disagree with anything that's going on in Gaza that Israel is doing, then therefore you are being anti-Semitic. And, honestly, if that's anti-Semitic, then I don't know what to tell you. Because I think a lot of people feel that way. And it's not against the people of Israel more so than it's against the government. But individuals like Andrew Cuomo will never tell you that. He'll never be honest with you. Mamdani is not some guy out there trying to push out the Jewish community. He will not be able to do that. It will not be allowed. And number 2, it's like these individuals are just just bad faith. I wouldn't vote for Andrew Cuomo based on this interview alone. He said numerous things that would make me not want to vote for him.
Yeah, it's utopia. I get it. Beautiful. I'd love to believe in it, but it's not reality. And you're going to dismantle the police. You already defunded the police and dropped the police force, and it caused mayhem. So it will be a more dangerous New York. I want to do the exact opposite. I want to open my arms and say, businesses, I'm here to help. I want you coming. I want to court business. I'll go around the world trying to bring business back to New York because that's jobs, that's opportunities. Young people come to the city for the jobs, and the businesses come to the city for the young people. That's the engine that drives it. Hire 5,000 more cops and make the city safe. That's where we were in the Dinkins-Giuliani era when the city was safe. Get the mentally ill homeless off the streets. You're not helping anybody, leaving dangerous mentally ill people on the streets. I get the civil liberties argument, but you're hurting them. Get them the help they need, and they're a public threat. Affordability is a real problem. Build affordable housing. It's your basic government incompetence that caused the problem. There's no supply. We have a 1% vacancy rate. It takes you 4 years to get a building permit in New York City through that broken government. I built LaGuardia Airport in 4 years. I mean, so you make the government work, you get the production of housing up, you have a real police force, you make the city safer, you're bringing jobs back to New York, you will change the whole dynamic. And you can do it quickly.
You got the energy for it. He's younger than you. You know, he walked across the city. That's what people were pointing to, Andrew Cuomo. You got the energy for this fight, my man? My last question.
He walked across the city. So what?
I'm just asking.
What does that mean?
I'm just asking.
What does that mean?
All right. Former governor of New York State, obviously challenging for the mayor seat of New York City, the one and only Andrew Cuomo right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Thank you so much for your time, sir. You know this is not the last time we'll be talking. I expect a thrilling race. I'm looking forward to this summer continuing to unfold and looking forward to what's going to transpire in the fall. Thank you. You know there's always a home here for you to have a conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen A. And God bless.
That's the former governor of New York State. So obviously he'll know what to do in New York City. I'm not sitting up here trying to cast aspersions or favor towards anybody. I want to be fair to everybody. I want Zohran Mamdani to know that he has an opportunity to come on this show. If he wants to talk to my viewers and listeners, I'm happy to oblige him, just like I obliged Mayor Eric Adams, just like I obliged former Governor Andrew Cuomo. I'm willing to give him the same courtesy. Now, I will be open and honest about the fact that I don't agree, you know, with anybody with a socialist agenda in this capitalistic society that we live in. I just don't buy it because I don't think it's practical. I don't think it's reasonable. I don't think it's something that's going to be efficient. Government run grocery stores, you know, defunding the police, you know, social workers and all of this other. No, I'm not vibing with that.
Again, this is just simple education. Defunding the police has not been abolishing the police. If you ask Stephen A. or Andrew Cuomo what that means, they're not going to understand that. It's just a reallocation of the funds that is given to police. It's not saying, hey, man, get rid of the police force. That's not what it is. Defunding the police is basically demilitarizing the police. Like, what the fuck? Like, let's at least be honest.
I'm just not. You know, more of what Cuomo says is more along the lines of my thinking. More of what Eric Adams says is more along the lines of my thinking. And I think that race between Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo is going to say a lot. Okay, because it's going to be interesting if Eric Adams doesn't elevate in the polls, as the Forbes/Harris poll showed, or the Harris poll showed. If Eric Adams doesn't elevate and gain traction, is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to refuse to leave? Cuomo's already said if he's behind, he'll leave. But if he's not, he shouldn't have to. How do we feel about Eric Adams staying in the race? All of those things are things to consider. And I think that's something that we're going to continue to touch on as things unfold over the weeks and months to come. Make no mistake about it, for the elections in November. So stay tuned. Thanks again, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, for being on the show. Up next.